No, I wanted you to get that Kevin was laughing like a schoolgirl. There we go.
Okay. So this recording is about Kevin laughing like a schoolgirl.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
title.
Title, Schoolgirl Laugh.
Thank you very much for that, Karen. Thank you.
We did have a good time, and the energy was very positive. And yet, I do want to acknowledge there was something negative. But what I think I would like people to know is you're not. It doesn't have the ability to take over. I mean, we
No,
felt quite easily dismissed it, even though once we became aware of it, we were just like, nope. Although I'm not discounting they can have an influence, but we're more powerful, positive
Amen.
energy.
Amen.
and Rebecca already got the information prior to that saying not to attend because it would be negative, if I recall. Is that correct, Rebecca?
That's correct. And the image, which I never shared last time, was a black door that was in the
Really?
backyard. And there was a person beside it. It was a male figure. And that's what was so interesting, because I didn't share this the last time. And sometimes when you think back on an occasion or an event, and then the details start filling in later on, and that's what it was like. And it was when you're sitting around the fire pit, if you turn around and face the house, the door was on the left side for a while, and then on the right side, which is where I had been sitting with the dogs when I was there with you, Kevin. I've got a picture of you and my husband laughing, sitting in your chairs. And so I was so grateful that Karen got protected, and but that's what I saw visually. That was the visual image, so that I could pray ahead of time for whatever it was to be gone or not to step through, or it was a door where he was going to bring something out, and you all were more positive. You all were in your spiritual element and in your places so that you could say, no way, Jose, you got to go.
Well, Kevin, do you want to talk about the picture that showed something in that same space behind us?
Oh, no, don't tell me we're going to have
Yes,
another
there's a
confirmation.
picture.
Yeah,
There's
we've
a
got
picture.
No way.
Nick took some photographs, and in fact, they're quite interesting because it looks like all the light within the different pictures that it's taken is fragmented. Now, either when he was taking them with his cell phone, he was moving his hands about, or he's captured the frequencies that was coming from the electrical storm that we were having. I haven't asked him yet because people take photographs with the cameras. Sometimes they're a little blurred, but this was certainly like a shaking, like this, when you see the pictures. But I mean, he brought it to mine and Karen's attention because directly behind where we were sat, there was this plasmoid of yellow energy, I would say, and he's got a photograph of it. And then there's another one. It looks like a portal has just opened up at the side of my head, and to me, it looks like there's a grey bean looking through like this. But I've got them on Messenger, but I can't do anything with them. I've given them to Sandy, see if she can move them to email or Messenger, and I can't even send them anywhere, so I'm stuck with them.
Try to send it to me on Messenger.
Yeah. When I say Messenger, it's text.
Can you?
It's on text.
Yeah, but you can send a picture. You can forward it on Messenger.
Okay.
If
I
you
know I've got
hold
a
it
Messenger.
down,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll have
on
a,
Messenger,
I'll have
hold
another
it
look at
down,
it.
touch
Okay.
the picture, hold it down, and there'll be some choices. And you hit, you can forward. There's a little arrow. You could forward it to me in Messenger, and maybe I
All
can
right.
get it out. But one picture I have actually is from Gary, and I thought you had it too, Kevin. Gary took it, and it's behind you and me, which is,
All right.
remember, Rebecca, we're sitting where you sat. Okay, so our backs are to Gary's house.
Okay.
So we are in front of the fire pit with our
Got it.
backs to the house. And this is where most of these pictures with light anomalies are coming up from two different people, Gary and Nick, and it's behind Kevin and I. But that would be the same location you're talking about.
And the fascinating thing also, David if you remember last week when everyone was talking about this, it was exciting that Dan and I were on the road experiencing what you were having in the sky as well. I thought
Yeah.
that was all these confirmations were just so good. The main thing, Karen, was that you were protected. That
Oh
that
yeah,
just made
we
me feel.
felt. Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
I don't
I
know
know.
why I was singled out to go sit on the grass with the dog. I thought that was very strange since the grass was wet. I mean, like, why would I go do that? And I had just settled in. Kevin will tell you I brought us out a couple waters. We were in these nice chases, kind of nice chairs. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand, why am I getting up to go sit on the wet grass in this
Can I ask
location
you
you're
where,
talking
if
about?
you're turning around to the house, was it on the right-hand side? If when you're
Yeah,
facing the house, okay, that's where I sat with the dog the last time. So there must
me
be
too.
something really ground. Good. Well, now here we have
Isn't
another
that interesting
interesting
that we would
confirmation. Yeah.
be
Good.
feeling like we need that dog or something? I don't know. It was a strange experience. There was so much happening that I couldn't really process it at the time, and now I understand more why you need to go back and talk about it with other people who are having similar or different experiences, because I just was doing what I felt compelled to do. And in retrospect, they were often things I wouldn't normally do. And that to me is fascinating about human behavior, that we get motivated or compelled to do things that are kind of out of character. You
Yeah.
know, it's not out of character for me to hang out with the dogs or animals, like, because I'm an animal person, but it wouldn't be normal to go sit in the wet grass with this dog. I mean, right? So, and then to process it or try to understand it through other people's experiences that aren't even there, like you, that have had similar experiences I'm unaware of, or at the exact same time. These, I think, are more than coincidences. And I'm a person through my psychologist work. I like to look for patterns and connect dots. I think that's how we try to understand and attach meaning to things. And there's certainly some things that were happening there, even though it was all at once, that you can kind of parcel out for yourself.
Yeah, you just brought to my mind. Now, this is a religious, because it's from the Bible, if you want to call it religious, but it was one of the occasions where Jesus it's in healing, Matthew 8 through 17, all of these healing passages, one after the other, boom, boom, boom. And in one of them, he says, well, I'm not worthy for you to come to my house, but just say it and so forth. So the centurion gets to the house, and the healing took place at the same time of day where Christ said, he's healed. And so when he had a confirmation. I love things like that when we look, because we're talking about this in our real time 3D experience. And David, I wanted to thank you for bringing us together, for keeping us going.
Oh,
I wanted to acknowledge that here, how
okay.
great it is.
Thank you. I'm just happy that you're all still interested. That's
I know,
all,
but you encouraged it as Kevin brought everything together, and that we have this camaraderie. We have and also you were talking about energy, Karen. That energy, because Kevin has very high energy all the time. He's all the time high
It's a
energy.
magnet.
Yes, he is. Kevin's a magnet. David has a softer. He's sitting in the chair. And it's almost as like every time I look at David, I see he's just holding an animal. He's at home and so forth like this. And Kevin is like, I'm here, man. What do you need from me? And Karen is bolting out of the head. Okay. Which light form do you want from me? What do you need? I'm going to plug you in here, and then she takes another light form. I'm going to plug you in there. I can tend to be all over the place, but I try to keep it soft within me because I will get too excited sometimes. So that's it's beautiful that we're still here, and I want to lift up Aurora as we're talking, and the situation that everything gets taken care of for her daughter, and. This is great. When you were at that CE5, well, what we're noticing is a pattern again. That's why I sent you all the pictures. Dan has an oil change, but it's not until after we're through today. So he didn't know if he could get them up on the screen or not, because I don't know how to do that. But it's really interesting. I will go out and I'll say, would you please show up? We need a showing, or we'll be on a walk or whatever it is. And then they'll say, well, look up, we're over here. And then I'll see them flying or they'll go through a portal. But this time we decided to start taking on our walks our cameras and the cell phones, yeah, cell phone cameras, and as I said, the first one that we came in, when I walked back in the house, my husband calls me up and says, "You better step back outside." And that's how I took it from the front of the house. My husband and his son Jeff were over across the subdivision by the lake on the opposite side. So we had two different sets of pictures at two different angles, two different views, and his were closer up and mine were far away. And he triangulated where it was, because we're in a,
It was like only about a block and a half away.
which is a horse and farmland here, where we are, the last vestiges in Lakeland of that area. Then the second one was something Dan, I'll go out, and then Dan will go out later in the evening. I'll say, "Would you please make sure you stop by, let somebody catch you?" And he just started shooting up, and there was that incredible image. And I found one similar. It popped up when I was listening to a video. It showed a photo of something very colorful, very similar to what Dan had caught, that one of the space satellites had picked up. It was very interesting. So I just didn't know if you had some similar ones, and then we waited a week before we decided to ask anybody. We sent them in to the IUFO board. And,
you did?
Yeah, to see if there's anybody who was interested in making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw those photographs, Rebecca. They're absolutely amazing, really, really good. In
Yeah.
fact, I had the thought of asking Aurora if we could include them in the book that we're gathering information for. We still haven't completed it yet, but it's a work in progress. I wondered if you'd like them published in that book.
Whatever you want to do is absolutely fine. And we'll put in the statements made by the commercial and drone pilots from here that work for the federal and the state governments. And it was the most natural thing in the world for the pilots just to look at us very calmly. They're UFOs. They're UFOs. I mean, it was just a matter of a fact. And he said, "And please don't think you mishandled." Oh, sure. See if
you can actually see that.
Too close, I think, Dan.
Yeah, I gotta get back here where it's
it's not picking up at all.
in with.
No.
Yeah.
Well, here, I'll try again.
No.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
See that one now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That could have been a glint from satellites.
I've got the email with the pictures in. I can send them to Karen and David if they haven't got them.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Oh, I got them too. You sent.
Oh, you
got
did?
'em.
Oh, okay. Then. So
Yeah.
good then.
Yeah. Send them.
I think Rebecca sent them out to all of us.
I did.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
she did now. Yeah.
On our cruise, when we would look out at night, because we were over the water in the back of the ship with a beautiful veranda. We had a very nice room, and it was Dan's first cruise of his life. And so we
Wow.
would sit there, and I just assumed that what we were seeing were planes coming up, but there was no click. There weren't any clouds. They would just come towards us, and then they would just softly disappear. So whether they were, I didn't catch that with my camera on that, but we did see those. One night it was 3 right into a row. So whether they were or not, the ones that I sent you, Kevin, whatever you want to do with them or have analyzed is fine. And
I'll ask Aurora then if she's interested in including them in the book. I think maybe because all we hear about is Chris Bledsoe and him calling in the calf, but we can all do that here.
Yes, we can.
We don't get any publicity about it. We don't shout out about it. We just ask when we need it. We don't think it's anything special. It's just you go out, you ask, and they show themselves. So
give a call and say, "Hi, are you there?"
Yeah. In fact, just a quick story, slightly off track. Talking about energies, yesterday afternoon, Sandy went to walk into our bedroom, and as it was unlocked anyway, slightly open by an inch or so, and she went to push it open, and there was a resistance there stopping it. So much so, she thought there was somebody behind the door. She pushed it open and then walked in and looked behind the door. There was nobody there, But clearly there was an energy there that was hot, and we've been in this house 13 years and never had that before. So, and I know I've had hot tea in the bedroom on a number of occasions. I'm just wondering who it was, but again, whether something negative or not, I don't know. But very interesting that something's happening around us. These energies are changing, frequencies are changing, and we're picking up on them.
Yes, I've noticed that ability has been coming in more so, and it catches me off guard sometimes. And Karen, if it continues, I may give you a call and get a little counseling rate going on, because it is important to talk about it. We do see them. I do, and it's sometimes it's a little startling. When we had a friend over, she had a UFO experience, but she maintains through theological belief that it's all demonic. And so I understand that's going to be a little hard to break when disclosure becomes internationally available. But that's okay too. We'll see what happens. But Kevin, I think for me, and you guys can answer this, when it's evil or it's a dark energy, I have a tendency to feel cold down to my bones. I have a physical reaction. I know that there's something wrong because it makes me shake inside of my spirit and my bone. Like that expression, you shake to the bones or you're cold to the bones. And that's what happens to me. And then it's a feeling of I should not stick around this, or I have the authority to say you have to get out. Whether I say it in Christ's name or I take command and say, you have no authority in this house or in this bedroom or in this office or something. I don't know what I'll throw this out to y'all and see what you think. What do you think these shadow figures are? I've seen them since childhood. Are they things that are intervene or in between the dimensions? Not necessarily good or bad?
I can answer that question definitively because I asked the Council of Eight many years ago now. I think even when I can't remember what age it was. So I used to see them all the time. They'd be just fleeting out of the side of your eye and whatever, around the corner. And then when you look at them directly, they disappear. Until I had one come into my bedroom, look at me directly in the eye and beckon me like this. He wanted to show me something. So I asked the Council of Eight, because what happened was that he beckoned me, did this shadow being, because he wanted to show me something. And I told him to go away because I wasn't interested. And he came back 3 times. So on the 3rd time, I said, right, okay, then he obviously wanted to show me something. So I got out of bed. I walked out the door. He went through the door. I opened the door, walked out. And on the landing, there was a beam of light. And I describe it like the beam of light that used in Star Trek when they transported people down to the... Just like that. And I said, well, you've gone to all this trouble to get me here. I'll step in the light. So I just stepped into it.
So they beamed you up, Scotty.
Beamed me up, Scotty. Yeah, beamed me up, Scotty. And I got this feeling of euphoria, just total euphoria.
Good.
And then Ra spoke to me, and which was quite interesting, really, because at the time he said, I am your father, you are your father. He identified who he was. And then he said, I am your father, you are your father's son. And I wasn't quite certain, really, who it was, even though I got the impression it was him. I wasn't sure whether it was my deceased father or not. But it wasn't. I got confirmation later it was him. But I asked them, why did they use a shadow person to connect with me? And he said that the shadow person lived between dimensions. And sometimes the higher dimensional beings utilize them to convey messages and attract people's attentions.
Thank you.
So they don't have a physical dimension. They're between dimensions. But clearly, but they're a bit, what's the word? Not, what's the word? Mischievous, I would say. They enjoy being mischievous. That's what they do. So they've no real role other than they have an energy between dark and light somewhere in the middle, I suspect. But yeah, so that's the definition I've been given of them. They live between dimensions and sometimes it's easy for the higher dimensional beings to utilize them to attract someone's attention, as they did there with that beam of light. I mean, they could have put the beam of light in the bedroom, but they didn't put it in the hallway, then use the shadow beam to attract the attention to go to it. So, yeah. So I'll.
So,
Kevin, go ahead.
did they did they explain whether these shadow beings can whether they're also so I'm understanding that it's a kind of intermediary between them and you. Can they also operate as an intermediary with unhealthy stuff?
I suspect so.
Yeah,
Especially if they're
it's like elementals. They can be sort of programmed to do to do a particular task. And,
I suspect so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I hadn't thought about that, but it does make sense from that perspective, and the fact that they're mischievous, and they get a kick out of not upsetting people, but surprising them, because people always challenge themselves. Am I really seeing that? Is it my imagination? When I've seen them.
Yeah, that's how I understand it too. It can work either way.
Thank you. This has been great because in my book, Kevin, do you remember there's a story where and to both David and Karen as well, there's a story where I talk about I was 10 years old and I knew to go into my closet because there was something there. And so I crawled through the grid, a red grid, and there was a dark shadow that was there guarding to let me in as well as to tell me when to leave. Interesting, because it was between the worlds. You've just answered that question. And you talk about mischievous. Well, 2 years ago, they kept crossing at different times. And one time was they came across, when you're taking a shower. Okay, you're very vulnerable when you're in your shower. So it crossed in front of the doorway, and I'm going, "Oh, is Dan in here?" And I called for my husband. Of course, he was working in the office, and so I step out of the shower, and the shadow was walking in front of the mirror, going out through the other way, was playing tricks to do this. The other time was, not causing any harm or anything. That wasn't it. But the distraction was, I guess if you want to call it mischievous. The other time there were 3 figures at my grandmother's home when I was little, when I was 2, when the angel was there and the demonics were there, the shadows were there, and my grandmother. So everything was differentiated between the dimensions. The demonic had to be taken care of by the angelic form, stepping out of the light, so that as a child, 2 years old, I could see my grandmother, I could see the shadows, and I felt that God was, when I looked back on that incident, He was helping me see that, you see all these dimensions? I'm showing them to you now, so that you can grow up with it and not be afraid. But thank you for answering that. I've been seeking some.
And Rebecca, you've touched on something there that I think is very important. We tend to only see our 3D physical dimension, where in reality we are living in a multi-dimensional existence, as it were. And what the abilities that we have access to those higher levels, those frequencies. But most people become fearful of them because they don't understand them, that we ourselves are multi-dimensional beings. But I've come to the conclusion, I think we're a very ancient species now. I think we are actually light beings. And that history has been hidden from us, denied us. And then we've lost our abilities because it's been hidden from us. And I know that I have all the same abilities that my star families have in relation to consciousness, multi-dimension, being able to travel through the different dimensions. So we are the same as them. It's just that we've lost that knowledge, I think. So I think what we need to get back.
I was only going to say that we're a restricted version of who we are in a physical life.
Interesting.
So it's a restricted version, and the density or the vibrations we work in is such that the finer senses that we have, the intuitive senses we have, it's a bit more tricky to get them working operating fully as fulfill our potential in such a dense vibration. So in that respect, in the kind of work I do, part of the physical life is actually working through a lot of shitty stuff we get, sort of stuff, challenges of different natures, and the learning that we get from that, and from the learning we distill to wisdom, and we were able to move on. That's, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I understand a lot of this. So those senses that we have, I'm getting older now. My hearing's getting less than it was. My eyesight's getting less than it was. My intuitive abilities, I've got no idea. But it is still there, at least. And if we... you've already said it, we're multi-dimensional beings. Well, what does that actually mean? It's apart from this physical body that we walk around with, there's other parts to us, apart from our intellect, our thinking. There's other aspects to who we are, and that's those other aspects of who we are getting listened to more now, I think. And when we talk about exoconscious, this is my understanding, in that we are listening to ourselves more than we used to do. And we are becoming more and more able to. We're beginning to be able to process the denser energy in a healthier way. We're beginning to be able to grasp our own essence and operate with it. Own our own power is what it comes down to.
A lot of good nuggets. All right.
Well, I want to follow up on that too. During the time at Gary's, I was really trying to think of questions that would be relevant to everyone, but I kept getting that I needed to ask a personal one for myself too. So what I decided to do, and I think, Dave, you were on that call, but Rebecca wasn't, and I don't know if you've listened to it or not, but I asked about a missing time experience when I was a child and when I was 15. And I got a very direct answer. And one of the confirmations was what I had never been told before, and that nobody could have known, which was, why did you leave your group? And nobody could have known that. My friend and I had separated from our group. She's 16, I'm 15. We're in Mazatlan, Mexico, imagine. Being that age as young girls, and we decided we're going to go off on our own, right? And nobody knew this except her and I, because we didn't want anyone to know, because that was really against the rules, right? And so we end up in front of this bar lunch place called Senior Frogs, if you've ever been to Mazatlan, and it's got a gated patio. And just to kind of make this short, but we were taken into a white van, doors thrown open. We happened to be sitting by this little gate. They just threw us in there. It happened within seconds. It was absolutely terrifying. We both recalled being in the back of this van, and it raced off. And the next thing we recalled was it was almost nighttime, and we're across the city in a local marketplace, standing there, and it's almost dark. And we are like, we don't know what just happened, but we had to find a local bus, and they're a different color because there's no tourists over here. We find it, there's chickens and goats on it. We're trying to figure out how to get back to our hotel. We got back, and I think the leaders of this group were looking for us, but they hadn't called our parents, and basically they didn't want to get in trouble. So they were kind of like, well, don't do that again, because you're obviously okay. And we didn't know what happened to us. We had a huge several hours of missing time. And I didn't ever know what that was until I asked the council. Go ahead, David,
Sorry,
what were you
I
going to
was
say?
just wondering if your friend experienced it in the same way, the same loss of
Yes,
memory, and so yeah,
everything exactly the same. But the weirdest thing is we didn't talk about it for 30 years later
yeah,
when she was dying of a brain cancer, where I
Oh,
said, do you remember this? She passed away on 11/11/11. So it was while we're having this conversation about that experience that we'd been college roommates. We went on to, it's not like we parted ways, never talked about it. It's like we weren't supposed to talk about it. Well, for a long time, I thought that was a screen memory to an abduction experience. And while I was abducted, it was a true abduction by traffickers. I didn't understand I was rescued from that experience and put back somewhere where they wouldn't know how to find us. And that was the Council of Eight assisting me, or my angelic guides as well. I still don't know for sure, but this was confirmed with details nobody else knew. So at Gary's last channeling, or Kevin's channeling at Gary's rather, they asked me, and I didn't ask them, they asked me,
yeah.
did you separate from your group? And we had never told anyone that. And I was like, maybe, and they went on to say, well, you put yourself in danger and we assisted you. And we basically took you from that situation and put you somewhere you wouldn't be taken again. It was such a strange confirmation when you have experiences like that. And what I want to relate it to is the energy exchange when you're in person with something like that. Well, you might be skeptical of something because you heard about it secondhand or watched it on a YouTube video. When you're in it, sitting across from it a few feet away, these energies are really difficult to deny because there's something happening. And as it relates to other energies you started asking about, Rebecca, the more you experience that, it seems like there's some aperture that opens up in us that you've had your whole life. But not everyone has known what that is. And my second question was not a personal question to them. It was, I felt like I kept fighting this question, like, I don't want to ask this. It's just too huge and nebulous. Kevin's going to be like, what are you asking this question for? This can't be answered easily. But I did. And he knew about it. But he's like, okay, well, leave that one in there. And it was, what is the history of the human race? Okay, that's a huge question. Like, right? I mean, massive. And I said, Kevin, should I leave that in there? I feel like asking that. He's like, oh, go ahead. We'll see what they say. And the answer was interesting because it's exactly what we've been talking about. Your history has been hidden from you. The history of the human race is not exactly what you've been told or what you think. And it includes all of these natural abilities within your consciousness, your divinity, your soul energies that have been basically dialed down to keep you from accelerating too rapidly. And I didn't know if that was a good thing to help us or a bad thing. I tend to think it's bad. But what if it's because we weren't ready for it yet? And if we went too fast, we wouldn't accomplish what we're supposed to in this lifetime or even the Earth's lifetime. I don't know. But that is something that came to mind when you guys started talking about our innate abilities. I think that we are much more advanced beings than we've ever been thought of or told.
right. Karen, here again, I'm not trying to bring in the religious, but you kept reminding me when Jesus took, I think it's James and John. He always kept two disciples. I think it was James and John next to him, and they go up to the Mount of the Transfiguration, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes Moses and Elijah. Okay, they're supposed to be dead. What did Jesus do? Introduce these dead men to the disciples? They didn't have pictures of them. How did they know? And I try to. So I love that part, but the big part is that he transformed himself into light, and that they saw light. And can you imagine sitting there and you see? And that reminded me because when we have these abilities, and he sent out people to heal the sick and raise the dead. Well, we don't see that a lot. I hear about it in the foreign countries. I do hear about people who actually practice this in their faith because they're in very high demonic situations and countries where they're being attacked constantly. And so I think about that when you said that, because that's one of the best illustrations of what we are. Because I remember as a child, I couldn't relate to that experience. And Kevin, maybe you can have something on this one, and David and Karen, when I was in that room, which I describe in my book as I'm a young woman, I guess it was 12 or 13, somewhere around in there, and that beautiful female comes into the room and shows me my life, and then said, "Would you like to see my true form?" and goes into light and leaves the room. And it was she was very much like a beautiful princess. I'm sure it was an angel there to talk about my future and not to be afraid. But going into the light form, I'm wondering if the orbs and the light forms that we see are either energetic forms, or maybe some of them are actual technical pieces that are sent to pick up information, or they're actual light beings in a form. Maybe they're all of the above. Wanted to ask you about things of that nature where you've seen light or pure light or...
Yeah, I would say, as you said there, Rebecca, all of the above.
Oh,
They're useful. I know that we can travel as pure conscious energy orbs ourselves, because I'm able to do that. Ort and Dee do that. They showed me how to do that. We've traveled together as pure conscious energy orbs, but they're also used within the technologies for communication as well. But again, it's these hidden abilities that it's been hidden from us for a reason. I suspect, I don't know this, I suspect it's to protect us. I suspect we're an ancient species, and there was a war between the good and the bad, the light and the dark, the evil and the good, as it were, and we lost. And so they scattered us around the universe in different areas to see if we could regrow all the humanity that we lost, really, in these wars. This is just my idea,
wow.
the information that we've got. And then from there, but now we're being guided and assisted to regain the abilities that we had as those fully evolved light beings. But because we lost the war, we were then put in places of safety out there in the universe so we could survive and grow. But that I haven't been told that, and I've got no direct evidence. It's just when I'm joining the dots and things and realise that I can do exactly what Ort and Dee can do, who look like me and you, they're just better looking. And they describe themselves as light beings. That's who they say. They can create using consciousness. They use consciousness for communication, for travel, for healing, for education, for creation and co-creation. Now, if they can do that, I know we can do that. So we really get into a point where we can create and co-create with our star families the reality that we desire for our children, for our future generations. I suspect this is the power of the light beings' knowledge, that those that subjugated, shall we say, don't want us to regain, because then we can direct the timelines for where we want to go for humanity and not be dominated by this negative side of whoever has imprisoned us on the planet and taken away our natural human abilities. But I haven't been told that. That's just a story that's unfolding within the information that I've been given. And it seems to fit in with that narrative.
Beautiful.
There's the flip side of some of that is, rather than we've had our abilities taken away from us, we've let go of them. And to leave us in a place of I'm thinking of the void of consciousness now, leave us in a place of not knowing, just only knowing a small bit about ourselves. And as we grow, as we go through incarnations, as the soul evolves, it evolves, in my understanding at least, it evolves by going through the experience of finding these abilities within us. It's not so much about bad guys out there doing horrible things, in my opinion. It is more about us going into challenges where we we go into a pit and we come out of it, and then eventually we work out, oh, we're light beings as well. And that's kind of how I understand it. And one of the things about that is that it places the power right smack with us, rather than, bad guys out there or good guys out there. It's with us. That's, and I think that is the most empowering part of it.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys something. Kevin knows this a little bit, but as it relates to those abilities, and Rebecca, I read your book, so I know you address this a little bit. There is something that happens with the ability to affect timelines. And for a long time, I thought the other was doing this to me. But now I'm thinking that I am doing it. And I don't know how that's working. But there are more and more frequent times of short missing time lapses. I call them time slips because I don't know how it's happening or what's happening, but I'm able to see evidence of it with my watch, or oftentimes my Fitbit my watch or Apple Watch, depending on what I'm wearing, it will say one time, but my phone or my car clock or whatever will say a different time. And so what that tells me is probably since the Fitbit or Apple Watch is attached to me, whatever was happening to me stopped or affected time. And when I'm back in it or on that timeline, the actual clock, my phone, or on all the other phone time displays are actually correct. And I don't know what is happening, but there have been more and more instances where I'm noticing 10 or 20. It's always on the 10, 20, or 30. Like, what is that? I can't explain it, but I feel like I'm more and more able to affect time, or I am moving about in a timeline flip, one to another. I don't know what's happening. And I wondered if anyone else was experiencing that. And secondly, I know Rebecca has some experience with the ports, and I think both of you do, Kevin for sure, and Dave probably too, ports, which is the physical matter is affected, right? Or like how does that happen? And when physical matter is affected in a way that it's moved. So for example, last week, I think I sent this to Kevin, nobody else, but I was at my normal Pilates class that I go to 4 or 5 times a week. I always go to the same spot. I lay my mat out. Again, you're looking at patterns of behavior. And when it gets disrupted, you are like, what is happening? So if it's a normal thing, you always do. So I lay out my Pilates mat. I always put my ball that you use throughout different times in Pilates, a little ball, in between my 2 socks. So I'll take my socks off so it won't roll away, right? Okay, and I do this 4 or 5 times a week. Same place, same thing every time. And you do all the exercises. And when it's time to stretch and cool down or whatever, I'm sitting and I will reach for my socks. Okay, I've moved the ball several times and set it on the socks so it doesn't roll away. So I go to put the ball there and the socks are gone. Okay, everything else is happening that's normal. The socks are in the same position I laid them in, only they're like 8 or 10 feet away from me. Okay, well, nobody moved my socks. I've been sitting, they've been right next to me this whole time. So I go to reach for them, but they're way across the room. And I'm thinking, I just sat and stared at them thinking, what just happened? And my instructor saw me just like kind of where you just are just like, what was that? She came over and said, what's the matter? I said, well, I'm just trying to figure out how my socks got over there. And she said, oh, I don't know. Are those even your socks? Well, yeah, those are mine. So these things that happen, and normally I think it might happen to a lot of people, I just wonder what goes on for things to be moved about. And are you moved to a different timeline? Are the articles moved? What is happening to us? And are we able to do these things, or is it being done to us? That's my question.
Well, you remember
Country.
Kevin was talking earlier about mischievous beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Consider that one for a start.
There you go.
Is one thing. The other thing that occurred to me, your experience of time, are you being prompted to bring attention to this? To
Good.
moving
Any
in
help
and
would
out,
be great.
moving in and out of different, bringing your awareness to different dimensions, possibly. I don't know. It's just a thought that came to me as you were describing it.
Good. That's all helpful. I take all things and try to process and consider it.
Karen, I'm going to agree that part of it are tricksters that do happen, and energy. My husband's saying jinn, the jinn.
Yeah.
But the other things that happen when time slips, if we think of it as we can change our clocks, when time changes and we go back an hour, we've made a decision to change time so that we're looking at it differently. But in terms of the universe, when something changes, we're either seeing another time period or we're taken in and out of a time period and shown something. Kind of like a dream where you can go back to see something. If you think of it this way, when you make a movie and you're showing it in your home, if on the old when the reels where it would slap over and you'd have your prompter and your screen up there, you could stop it, roll that thing back, and then start it again and roll it back and watch it again. Well, now all we have to do is take our phones or whatever we're using and then just click it and stop it and go back to the other time part of the movie. And if you think of these time slips sometimes as that, you can go ahead to a future part of the movie that's already there, or you can stay in the time period of how you're watching it within the hour and a half that it was made, or you can take it and go, whoop, I can slip back. The hard part is when you are standing somewhere and you're watching another time period literally unfold in front of your eyes. It's very, I don't know, frightening's not the word, but it throws you for a loop, and those that see you from the other time loop are also going, what? Here again, I'm going to pair it like a movie. It's like you're watching a movie, and all of a sudden the actor turns and goes, oh, hey, David. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Karen, how you doing? You're watching me in the movie? Great to see you. But
Right.
and you're going, what? And that's what it's like. Now, if you're changing to another time slip, that I believe, and Kevin may have a lot more to say about this, those that understand it's like a reverse osmosis. That's not the one I want to use for water. It's the things that are happening with the resonance on our planet right now. If you watch the scales that they're watching, they're spiking with the resonance of the planet itself as it sings, as it moves, as it changes. And it's also causing rifts and time, because our concept of time is so different. And I think that's because we can be taken somewhere to another place and then brought back. Okay, I'm going to give a real strong incident, and I don't think I talk about it. I don't remember if I do or not in the book. Kevin, I really can't remember. But I was coming home from Dillard's. I worked at Dillard's in several different departments for an extended time, between five to 6 or 7 years. My sister worked out there with me. So I'm home one night. It's between 7 and 8 at night. I'm in the car. I know exactly where it happens. After I leave the underpass and right before I get downtown, all of a sudden, I leave the car. I'm no longer in the car. I'm standing somewhere. I'm watching something happen. I walk up to a group of people. I tell the person in front of me, kick that underneath that stage area, will you please? And then I leave. I come back to my car, and I'm going, what the padookie just happened here? I was astounded because time stopped. The car stopped. I was taken out physically, spiritually, at every part of me, or maybe I don't totally understand how it was done, but it was done for a reason. It was the Atlantic bombing, and I was telling the person to kick it underneath there, and I believe, if I look back correctly, I believe that due to whoever kicked whatever was underneath there, it stopped others from being killed. I think only one person was harmed or killed in that shooting. Of course, they looked at the wrong person for a length of time. I'm glad they checked him out, but they looked at the wrong, and then they eventually found out who it was later on. But that was an out of time experience where the car, when I got back, I'm in it, and then it drops. The other time was, I'll share this, and then I'll stop, and then you guys can respond. It was in New York. I'm taking a shower. It's 11:15. Because I had to go back and write everything out. And the shower, I'm standing in the shower, and the warm water's coming on my head and my side of my body on this side. All of a sudden, the shower stops. I don't have the soap and the cloth in my hand anymore. I'm still completely nude. I'm taken out and I'm placed in a round circle. And I'm going up into a black type universe. There's nothing around me, and I'm as comfortable as can be, but I'm not totally myself. I feel like I'm a spiritual being protected within a bubble. And it's black. I'm in a black universe, and I can see, you see the outline we have in back of us? You have it, Kevin, on your earth. I have it in mine. Well, I'm encased in that. It's that kind of bubble. And all of a sudden, a bright line comes over, pierces the top, and it's my uncle, Uncle Frank, who I love very, very much. I don't share this one because it's a very precious, delicate, and very deeply personal experience. But maybe this will help, Karen. As this time has stopped, and I'm up there, in this, he says, should I go? The family, da-da-da, and he was talking to me, and I said, Uncle Frank, it's all right. You've had a wonderful life. You've been great. And he had been in military intelligence. He was a great uncle. Everybody stayed in their home out in California. A very strong Catholic man, raised a great, beautiful family. All of our cousins are still close. And he's piercing through, getting this message to me, and I tell him, it's okay to go. I'm there. I see you. I hear you. It's all right. And then all of a sudden, it's withdrawn. The first thing I feel is the water. I feel warm water, and my body starts to come back into place, and time resumes itself. So I get out of the shower because I was in shock. And so I wrapped myself in a blanket, and I laid down in the bed for a while, and I got a phone call. Because we know you're a couple of hours a distance from New York. I think is it 3-4 hours between New York to California?
4.
Is that 4? Dan says it's 4. Okay. And it was at that time, I learned later on, a couple of hours later, that he passed. So I matched it, and it was at the exact time. He had sent a prayer to speak, and God allowed it. But he had to take me out of the shower and put me in a place where I was protected spiritually in order to talk to him. It wasn't just a feeling. Karen, the time stopped. So somehow our Creator, and I know that somehow technology, I know somehow it exists because we did it with the, back in the 1940s with the ships. When they disappeared with the gravitational pull and all of the stuff they did, and it caused a lot of damage, a lot of brain damage.
Philadelphia experiment.
Yes, it was a lot of damage done. But I know God has a better way of doing it, a lot safer. So I hope that helps in some way, but it's for your aid, it's for your help, and it's also shifting. I think, Kevin, you have a better understanding
Well, no, I think
of
that's
that
very
resonance.
fascinating. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head, really. We're going back to that multidimensional being that we are, and the fact that you're able to connect with your family member who's reaching out at the point of his passing. And to do that, you have to leave the encumbrance of the physical behind
Oh,
to get to those frequencies of consciousness to receive the information that was coming to you. That's my understanding of it. But
beautiful. Thank you.
I have a similar. When I was 11, I was exploring a previous life, and in this previous life, accessed the life. I was a young boy. I was a 14-year-old boy in France, and I was the son of a royal. Um, I wasn't part of the royal family, I don't think, but it was up. I was up there, and we lived in a big mansion. And then it was 1789, storming of the Bastille, and all these rebels came to our house, this big mansion, ransacked it, set it on fire, and put me and other members and people in the back of a wooden horse-drawn cart, taken down to Paris, thrown in the Bastille, and then the following morning we went and to the guillotine and had our heads chopped off. And
Oh,
as the guillotine was coming down, I woke up and I thought, well, I know I'm exploring. I'm not certain whether it's a dream. I was exploring the previous life that I was aware of. I think it's a bit of both, actually. So that day at school, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what would happen if I had woken up and let my head get chopped off. Would I have died? Would I have died in this reality? And the second question I had was, would I stay in the basket when my head went in the basket? Uh, Strange question for an 11-year-old boy. Anyway, that evening, I entered that reality. I relaxed, I went to sleep. I entered that reality. But this time, I was watching from up here what was going on, me down here. And I, up here, knew what was going on because I'd already experienced it the previous night. And exactly the same thing unfolded. But as I say, I'm watching it like watching a TV screen or watching the cinema. And we got to the point where the guillotine was coming down. I decided not to wake up from the dream or reality or whatever and let the guillotine chop my head off. And I could see in the basket for about 4 seconds, then it went dead. And I didn't wake up, but I didn't die in this reality. So I got my two questions answered. But really, what is the true nature of reality when we're able to do this? And I've accessed other past lives now. Are they past lives? Are they dreams? Are they just creations of consciousness? I don't really know, to be quite true, but I think that my understanding, I've come to the understanding again, I haven't been taught this, that we are spiritual light beings, uh, and we're part of universal consciousness. And the consciousness itself creates or manifests the realities of the different dimensions so it can learn itself. It enjoys having the purpose of having a dimension or a reality that it can watch, it can participate in, and it can grow in there. But to understand all that, you have to have an understanding of consciousness itself. Then it's like a maze, like David said, you work your way through this manifestation of life and reality. And each time you're learning, but is it the soul that's learning? And the soul is the frequency of consciousness itself. And I suspect that's what's happening. But trying to explain that and explore it is difficult. But it's getting easier now because we have the technologies that allow us to access information and things. So things like that. And then with like now with Zoom, it's a technology we are using, but we are sharing our experiences and learning together that these experiences we're having are not woo-woo. You don't have mental health problems. You're not a member of the Tin Hat Brigade. It's part of reality.
Excellent.
So that we get confirmation of that. So the soul is still growing, and the communication with the deceased people I've had since childhood, I'm still able to. In fact, I had a communication with my grandmother the other night, first time in a long time. But these things are, I think, normal. Well, they're normal for me. So, I don't think they're normal for the rest of us. So it's really, we're exploring it together. And I have to wonder, what would life be like if everybody reached the level that we reached? And I'm sure that those that are higher, I know Howard in David's group, he has contact with the ascended masters, the archangels, the divine himself. Well, I don't have those levels of connection of consciousness, but he clearly does. And I've met others that have contact with the archangels and things. I don't, but others do. So there's all these different levels of consciousness, and once you access them, but then what importance is there on like a 3D dimension? It's a very low frequency. It's a low dimension. It's heavy. It's it's very difficult. I mean, I have a good life here, but some people have terrible lives, awful lives. How do you climb out from those really low? Like the people get involved with the drugs and the alcohol and all the other negative frequencies. How do they climb out of those frequencies up to the levels where we are? And we can still climb to those higher levels, but how do we do that? It's very, very limited, but we are assisted by the higher levels of consciousness, by our star families, by I suppose, the ascended masters, the archangels, the divine, but we're still on the same journey.
Yeah.
Does
Well,
that make any sense?
my understanding is that well, we die, we're reborn again, and so we might die as a junkie, for example, but we're reborn, and we're not necessarily a junkie when we're reborn. We have another opportunity to grow and learn, and as we grow and learn, we evolve more and more. So some people have very, very tough journeys, and some, it seems a lot easier. But how much do you learn when it's easy? And how much do you learn when it's tough? And sometimes it just seems too overwhelmingly tough, to be able to do anything with it. But I remind myself the soul is eternal. We just do keep growing, and there's no race. We get there when we get there, sort of thing.
I'm coming back as a tortoise.
You come back as a tortoise. I'll come back as a hare then. All right.
I don't want to come back, but if it is true, I want to be a mermaid.
Well, that reminds me that you've heard we don't have a soul, we are a soul. That's an interesting thing that always resonated with me, that we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And those physical experiences are varied as much as sands on the beach. Everybody's having a very different experience. And the other thing, a natural progression for me with this conversation is the question of what is happening now. Rebecca talked about the resonance of the earth has shifted and changed. We know there's different energies coming in. I think all of our planets, we are tied to the energy of our star, which is our sun. And those sun energies, as they change, our consciousness is affected, because plasma, as we're learning from Kevin's channel and also in our plasma study group, which we're part of, some of us, is it's the first state. So back to that question that Rebecca asked, what happens in the light or the plasma state? Well, each of us could probably relate a contact experience to light, whatever form. It's an orb, it's a light being. Those are my two experiences. A being and a vehicle or ship were present in the plasma light, as well as communication being given to me through the light. What is that? Light codes? I don't know. I just know consciousness is affected by energy, or rather, it's backwards, actually. I think plasma is the vehicle for consciousness and everything. And one of the things we also got at that last CE5 that we had never heard before was a message about plasma. And I don't know if they were responding to our interest as the plasma study group or the changes in our earth and the energies of our earth, but there was a specific message about plasma. And then we got this spectacular light show. And so something is happening in our current state that includes plasma, includes light, includes energy, includes frequencies. And I would like to know from each of you, what do you think is happening? And if you look at the current state of disclosure, if you want to say we're a post-disclosure group, obviously, what's happening with the rest of the world? You know, things are happening. And I don't know what timeline exactly it is, or if they're merging. I got some information at one point on that there were two timelines and they were going to converge in the future. Maybe we're in that future.
Can I just ask you, Karen, you're in the plasma study group. Anyone else?
Kevin, you're in there.
Do you know, I hovered, I almost joined.
It's fascinating.
I bottled it. I said, "Oh shit! You know, this is so technical and so so beyond me. I won't be able to contribute anything. I won't be able to learn anything from it."
You would. It's fascinating. I think it's recorded, and you still could participate and listen to it if you want.
Because, you know, some of the experiences I have, okay, you have something appear in front of you. What is it? It's not physical. Yeah. What is it? In some of the work I do, I'm aware of shapeshifters. What's shifting? What is it? Is it plasma? Does plasma have a role in this? These, yes. You know, I've got lots of questions around that I'm really kind of intrigued about. Yeah, I don't have the answers, and I saw Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright's thing about the plasma study group, and I did speak. I sent an email to Rebecca, sort of saying I was interested, and then she sent me a little bit of information. And I thought, oh shit, no, I just wouldn't. Really, I'm sorry, I keep swearing here.
It's your channel thing, Dave.
I got back in touch and I said, look, I just don't think I'd be able to contribute or gain anything from it. And yet, I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, I was in two minds, David, for the similar reasons, really. I know absolutely nothing about plasma whatsoever.
No.
But I'm learning by listening to the others and the chapters that Rebecca's given us to read. It's not too demanding. And even if you don't read the chapter, you can get a quick summary before you do the 2 hour, whatever it is. But I've learned quite a bit, and we're all in there learning, because I don't think any of us know. So it's a collaborative learning, and you don't have to contribute. If you're there and listen, you learn. But then if you've got a question, you can throw the question out to the group, and then someone within the group may be able to answer that question. When I did put something out there, but only because it was given to me at the channel, that plasma was the first stage of matter. Well, that tips everything on its head if it's correct. But then there's a Paul, I forget his name now. Anyway, he's a retired physics professor, and he agreed with me. I don't think it is me. I don't know anything, but I'm just repeating what I think it was Ra that said it. and I'm just repeating it because when having read that and watched the channel, I think that makes more sense. So I repeated it because I've changed my position. I've juxtaposition. That's a big word for you. And I've got
Oh, you use big words. I wouldn't fit in that group.
When we was at work, we always used to have a big word of the day and see who could get the most letters. And juxtapose was one of them. So yeah, I've got several. I can use, David.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I went off track again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do either of you know when the next date of the next one?
It's the third Saturday of every month.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And
Yeah.
you can
I'll have a
catch
think
up
about it.
He's got the recordings of the chats that we had, so you could catch up just by watching those. You don't need to read anything. It's in the discussion.
Where'd you get that? Oh,
Rebecca. You'd have to ask for Rebecca.
that's shared between you. Yeah. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When you're in the group, you both can ask, because it's a common state of matter in the universe because it's supposed to power the stars, plasma.
Right.
But I'm wondering if because it's a yellowish type that responds to electromagnetic, I'm wondering if the plasma is what I saw aboard the craft in '92, in which the consciousness and the ability to touch it was what worked, and it existed and was a part of the makeup of the ship. In that particular one, as I noticed, because there was a liquid form on the layout of the ship, and of course it was, and the entity was designed to fly it, and you could see through. That was the see-through one. Before we go, I wanted to say something. David, I wanted to tell you that sometimes when it used to be, I could only see dark auras when people were ill. But here again, Karen, it's been changing because of all of the shifts and everything. So your aura is going from inside shoulder over an arcway, very, very healthy, very good, very new and refreshing, and giving you a lot of energy. It's an off-white. Kevin, yours is embedded within well, I know you're on a spacecraft background, but if you could put a helmet on, just a fitted helmet that would fit your head, yours is just right there.
Does he look like Magneto?
Yeah, Magneto guy. Oh, no. No, but it's really, it's like a cap over your head, right there, solid, firm, just all the intelligence wrapped up within it, and it lights and it's lit up, and it's more of a yellowish color, where yours is the off-white, and yours is intense white, and it goes. Karen, yours is you've got lines coming out here, and then one at the top. So you got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's smaller ones that are coming out through the side. I just wanted you to know that before we close, so that you can. It's not often that I will be able to see all those good, wonderful auras.
And all of you can send $20.
Yeah. Get him off the chart.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been really wonderful. Thank you again.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. It's coming up to time to wrap it up, I think, isn't it?
Can I ask anything, if we...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Karen.
Oh, you're going to ask anything else, or maybe for next time, I hope. I want to have this carry over to our next time, the state of disclosure, capital D, small d, or post-disclosure, because everybody right now is in one of those timelines. Either they don't participate or think it's a real thing, or even care, or they're in the, hey, this might be real, how's this going to affect me? Or they've already had experiences and they're beyond that, and they're like, what do we do with this? And I think that it would be a good conversation to record, and other people might be interested in it because they are experiencing, whether it's through new information that's coming out that's never been talked about before, and they're going to be looking for maybe some assistance with how to process this information that isn't frightening or scary. So I'm interested in that, and I don't know if anyone else is, but that's kind of my jam.
Yeah, I've got a
Okay.
last thought that's just come in now, as it were, because of
Oh, they wanted me to ask. They like me to
Mm.
ask.
the question is if I give the example of when I've traveled out of body as a pure conscious energy orb, it's golden yellow in color, it's 4 to 6 inches across, and it's vibrating. Is that plasma? Is conscious energy plasma? I suspect it is. And I've traveled with Orton D in a craft when they appear as conscious energy orbs, and I've asked them that question, and I've also asked them a question. I see you as a pure conscious energy orb. I didn't understand the word plasma then. I wouldn't have thought about it. I do now. But I said, how do you see me? And they said, Kevin, we see you exactly the same as a pure conscious energy orb. But is that plasma? I suspect it is.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
David knows. He knows. See, he should be on that course. Yes.
Now, see, Dave, you already know. You should be in our
No,
course.
well, I was saying yes. I agree. That's an interesting question. That's that's
You're backpedaling now, David. Backpedaling.
Well, I tend to think yes, it is anyway, but I've got nothing to back that up. Just what I'm saying. Also, in my, as I say, shapeshifters, sometimes you get even low vibration energy at sort of acting like scary monsters and things like that. And you can say to them, show me your true self. And you see a little wimpy, sort of imp or something like that instead. How have they done that? How have they projected this? Even low vibrational stuff can do this. I'm sure that we have the potential to do it as well. I'm not suggesting we do what they do, but we can work with plasma to create. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear what plasma is?
Yeah, go on then.
Plasma is the fourth state of matter. There you go. There's a pearl. Plasma is an ionized gas and often called the fourth state of matter. After solid, liquid, and gas, it forms when a gas is heated enough to expose to strong magnetic fields, freeing electrons from atoms and creating a mix of positively charged ions and negatively charged electrons. It is electrically conductive. 99% of the visible universe is plasma. On Earth, natural examples include lightning, auroras, flames to a degree. Artificial plasmas appear in neon signs. So the old neon signs, remember those? Fluorescent lights, which we don't have many of anymore. Plasma torches, experimental fusion reactors, tokamak, So, about that.
Yeah, very good. I think that's the agreed definition, except now we're changing the definition to being the first stage of matter instead of the fourth. But all the rest of that still applies.
You might very well be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to
have
see.
it out of order.
Yeah. Dan says.
And Dan, I still have neon lights. I've still got them. They flicker.
60 seconds.
Okay, I'll bring the recording to an end now.
Okay.